She mistook the bulge for a weapon. Her reaction about human anatomy was priceless. The space station floated like a silver jewel above the turquoise swirls of the planet below. It was enormous, a city in the sky, and it thrummed with life from dozens of species from across the galaxy. From the bustling corridors lined with stalls selling strange foods to the observation decks, where ships glided like fish through the black ocean of space, it was a place of excitement and discovery. Among all the visitors that day, one stood out. Zyra, a tall, slender alien with translucent skin and eyes like polished amber, who moved with careful precision through the crowd. Her mission was simple yet crucial: to study humans. Zyra had spent months reading reports, scanning video logs, and memorizing every detail she could about the species. Humans were described as unpredictable, strong-willed, and fascinating. They were rare travelers in this part of the galaxy, and the few encounters she had witnessed had always ended in bafflement. Today, she hoped to observe one directly. She adjusted the strap of her data scanner, a delicate device strapped to her wrist, and focused on the patterns of movement around her. The doors of the docking bay hissed open, and a human stepped out. Zyra's amber eyes narrowed with concentration. The human's posture was upright, confident, almost theatrical, and his movements were oddly graceful for a species that looked so fragile. He wore a sleek suit that seemed designed to be both functional and formal, with several compartments and folds that hinted at the human obsession with pockets and tools. Zyra's eyes, however, were drawn to a particular feature, a slight bulge in the suit that, according to her preliminary scans, was unusual. She stopped in her tracks. That bulge, it could be a weapon, possibly a concealed energy disruptor or a compact plasma blaster. Her whole body stiffened as she adjusted her scanner, preparing to analyze it in detail. The protocol for unknown weapons was clear: maintain distance, observe behavior, and prepare defensive measures. She took a slow step closer, careful not to draw attention, her 3 fingers hovering over her control panel. The human, Captain Elias, looked around casually, unaware of the intense scrutiny. He had dark hair that fell slightly into his eyes, and a smile that seemed to belong to someone who was entirely at ease in any environment. He moved as if the station itself were a playground, weaving around other species without bumping into anyone. He paused near a kiosk selling beverages that emitted colored steam, lifting a small cup and sniffing it curiously. Zyra's mind raced. If that bulge was indeed a weapon, she needed to act quickly. She backed up slightly, careful to keep the human in view. Her alien physiology allowed her to move silently, and she positioned herself behind a stack of crates, scanning him. Her datapad flickered with readings, most of which were normal. However, that one area remained a mystery. She took a cautious breath, reminding herself of the mission: study humans, learn about their behavior, avoid unnecessary conflict. She could handle a weapon, but she preferred observation first. She watched as Elias laughed softly at a joke another human had made over the communicator on his wrist. The sound was light, melodic, and oddly comforting. It reminded her of the soft vibrations of a river over stones, though her species could not produce sound in the same way. Elias' movements were curious. He reached behind him to scratch his shoulder, then adjusted the belt of his suit. Each motion made the bulge shift slightly, and Zyra's suspicion grew. She barely suppressed a small hiss of alarm. This confirmed her fear. Humans were capable of hiding dangerous devices in ways no scanner could immediately detect. She stepped back a little, still hidden, and activated a low-level defensive field. It was harmless, but would alert her if the human attempted any sudden movement. At that moment, Elias turned his head slightly, as if sensing her presence. Zyra froze. The human's gaze swept the area, sharp and observant. He stopped and smiled faintly, not in alarm, but in curiosity. "Hello," he said, his voice warm and clear. "I don't mean to intrude, but are you watching me?" Zyra's mind raced. She had been discovered, yet she was not ready to reveal herself. Slowly, she stepped from behind the crates, keeping her movements smooth and deliberate. "I am observing," she said in her native tongue, her voice precise and calm. When she noticed his confused look, she switched to basic, the galactic trade language. "You are unusual. Your physiology does not match any known patterns in my records." Elias raised an eyebrow, the smile never leaving his face. "Unusual, that's one way to put it," he replied, tilting his head slightly. "I get that a lot." He gestured to the bulge in his suit with a casual wave, completely unaware of the suspicion it had caused. "Is that what you're worried about?" Zyra's antennae twitched. Could he actually be aware of what she was thinking, or was this another human trick? She suppressed a flicker of annoyance and focused on the data. She had been trained to remain calm, even in the presence of potential danger, but the human's relaxed demeanor was disarming. She had expected aggression, not friendliness. She approached slowly, scanning the human's movements for any sudden changes. Every gesture, every step was catalogued in her datapad. The bulge moved slightly as he shifted his weight, confirming her earlier readings. Zyra prepared a mental protocol for defensive engagement, though she hoped it would not be necessary. Elias reached out to shake her hand. Zyra hesitated. Physical contact was unpredictable. Human touch could be a greeting, a challenge, or a form of communication beyond words. She finally extended her three-fingered hand, and Elias' grip was firm but not overpowering. The warmth and strength of it surprised her. Humans were soft yet resilient, gentle yet capable of extraordinary force. "I'm Captain Elias," he said, smiling. "And you are?" "Zyra," she replied. She had not expected to reveal her name so quickly, but something about his manner encouraged trust, even if she did not fully understand it. She continued to scan subtly, watching for any sudden movement. Elias noticed her datapad flickering with readouts and leaned slightly to peek. "Scanning me? Don't worry, I'm not dangerous," he said lightly. Zyra's eyes narrowed. That was exactly what someone might say if they were dangerous. Yet his expression, his tone, his every gesture seemed to contradict that assumption. The station's ambient noises shifted as a shuttle docked nearby. Aliens of various shapes and sizes moved past, chatting in strange tones. Zyra felt a twinge of frustration. She was supposed to be observing, analyzing, and reporting, yet she was becoming distracted by the human's presence. His confidence, his humor, his simple gestures, they were all anomalies in her data. Humans did not fit neatly into the logical patterns she understood. Elias noticed her hesitation and tilted his head again, the same curious smile on his face. "You seem tense," he said. "Is it me, or am I just that confusing?" Zyra's lips tightened into what could almost be called a smile in human terms. "You are difficult to categorize," she admitted. "There is a structure in your suit, its function is unknown." She gestured toward the bulge again, careful not to make her fear obvious. Elias laughed, a sound that filled the small space around them. "Ah, that. That's just part of my suit. Nothing to worry about, I promise." He tapped it lightly and it shifted slightly, harmlessly. "Humans have quirks. Sometimes our bodies do things that seem strange, but we mean no harm." Zyra's datapad beeped softly, registering the change. Her scans confirmed the readings, harmless. She exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease. Still, her curiosity was piqued. Humans were not only unpredictable, but they had a way of confusing other species without even trying. "Interesting," she murmured, making a note. "Your species adapts in ways that are unique." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "Your anatomy is different from the samples I have studied. Efficient, flexible, and capable of movements that my species finds impossible." Elias grinned, clearly pleased with the praise. "Thank you, I think we try." He glanced around the bustling station, then back at her. "Would you like me to show you more?" "There are things humans can do that don't show up on scanners." Zyra hesitated. Observation from a distance was safer, but there was something compelling about this human. She agreed, noting that direct observation could provide far more data than her previous attempts. "Very well," she said carefully, "but I must maintain caution." Elias laughed softly, a sound that made her feel strangely at ease. "Of course, caution is wise." He led the way toward a quieter observation deck, the hum of the station fading behind them. Zyra followed, her scanners active, her curiosity growing with every step. The human was unlike anything she had seen, and already she sensed that this encounter would not be ordinary. For the first time, Zyra felt a thrill she had not experienced before, the joy of true discovery. And all of it had started with a simple, harmless bulge in a human suit that she had mistaken for a weapon. Zyra followed Captain Elias through the winding corridors of the station, her eyes constantly scanning him and his movements. Every step he took seemed ordinary to him, but to her, it was a mystery to decode. She had been trained to observe subtle gestures, to notice micro-expressions, to understand the nuances of alien physiology. Humans, she realized, were something entirely different. They were unpredictable, expressive, and astonishingly clever in the way they used their bodies. Elias glanced at her occasionally, his dark eyes twinkling with amusement. "You seem tense," he said lightly. "I promise I won't explode or do anything dangerous." He tapped the slight bulge in his suit again, which wobbled harmlessly. "See, nothing to worry about." Zyra's antennae twitched in irritation. She hated feeling caught off guard, but the human's casual nature made it difficult to maintain her usual analytical composure. She responded carefully. "Your anatomy does not match the patterns I have studied. It is efficient in ways that are difficult to categorize." Elias laughed, a sound that was warm and infectious. "I like to think of it as creative," he said. "Humans are good at solving problems in ways that seem strange at first." He gestured at a nearby display panel that projected a holographic map of the station. "For example, we can improvise almost anything. Give us a problem, and we find a solution, even if it looks messy." Zyra's datapad flickered rapidly as she recorded every observation. Humans improvising was one thing, but this was a level of unpredictability that she had not anticipated. She studied the bulge in his suit again, cautious but curious. Every time he shifted his weight, it moved slightly, but there was no sign of threat. Yet she could not dismiss it completely. "You are still focused on that," Elias said, noticing her gaze. "Really, it's harmless. You don't have to be afraid." "I am cautious," Zyra replied, her tone careful but firm. "My species has learned that appearances can be deceiving. I must ensure safety before fully trusting any unknown subject." Elias nodded thoughtfully. "Fair enough. Humans can be unpredictable too, but usually in fun ways, not dangerous ones." He smiled, then paused. "Would you like me to show you how harmless we are?" Zyra raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Elias grinned. "Well, humans can move and gesture in ways that are completely non-threatening. It's called communication. Not just talking, but using our bodies, our faces, our hands." He held up both hands, fingers spread, and made a series of exaggerated gestures. "Like this, for example, it's a greeting, or this one, it means we are curious, or this one, this is us trying to be funny." Zyra tilted her head, scanning every movement. Her eyes widened slightly as she realized that these gestures were more expressive than any alien signals she had ever studied. The human's hands moved fluidly, almost dancing through the air, and his face mirrored every subtle change in emotion. She could not help but note the efficiency of it, no energy wasted, every movement meaningful. "This is fascinating," she murmured, recording it. "Your species conveys information through motion, expression, and sound simultaneously. It is efficient and nuanced." Elias laughed softly. "We like to think so, though sometimes it confuses other species." "You're not the first to misunderstand us." He glanced down at the bulge in his suit again, tapping it lightly. "And this, harmless, completely harmless." Zyra studied him carefully, still unsure. She had expected humans to be unpredictable, but the level of composure he maintained while she observed him was unexpected. Most species, she noted, would have reacted defensively or aggressively by now. Humans seemed almost too calm, almost playful in their interactions. "Would demonstration help your understanding?" Elias asked. "I can show you how we use our bodies without threatening anyone." Zyra hesitated. Direct observation was riskier than distant scanning, but she nodded. "Very well, proceed." Elias stepped into the center of the observation deck, where the floor was slightly raised and covered with a smooth material that allowed for easy movement. "Watch closely," he said, and began a series of gestures. He raised one arm, then the other, twisted his torso, and leaned forward and back. Each movement was deliberate, yet fluid, showing strength and flexibility. Zyra's sensors registered the shifts in muscle, balance, and coordination. The bulge in his suit moved naturally with the motions, harmlessly flexing with the body. She recorded the data carefully, noting every small detail. "This is remarkable," she whispered. "Your species is adaptable. You use your structure efficiently, yet your form is flexible. This combination is rare in the galaxy." Elias smiled at her reaction. "We humans take pride in being adaptable. Problem comes, we find a way to handle it." He paused, then made a gesture that caused his shoulders to rise and fall in a humorous way. "We even use humor to communicate, confuse, or lighten situations." Zyra blinked. Humor? That was unexpected. Her species did not possess anything like it. She tilted her head, analyzing his expression. He seemed genuinely pleased with the small demonstration, and there was no threat, no weapon, nothing dangerous. Just expression. Humor is part of communication, she said carefully, recording the data. It conveys information without physical or chemical signals. Efficient yet unpredictable. Elias laughed again, clearly amused by her formal tone. Exactly. We can make a serious point or make someone laugh all with the same gestures or expressions. Zyra's antennae twitched with interest. She had read about human improvisation, but witnessing it firsthand was another matter entirely. Every motion, every expression, every word seemed designed to maximize information, emotion, and clarity. Even the bulge in his suit, which had caused her so much concern, had moved naturally with his anatomy, completely harmless. She began to relax slightly, her fear replaced by curiosity and fascination. Humans were more than unpredictable. They were creative, expressive, and resilient. Each gesture seemed intentional yet effortless. Her databanks were overflowing with observations, each one confirming that humans were indeed extraordinary. Elias noticed her fascination and grinned. "You're taking notes, aren't you?" "Yes," she admitted. "I must record your species accurately. It is unique in ways I did not anticipate." He chuckled, then moved into another series of gestures, this time more exaggerated and playful. His arms swung widely, his legs bent at odd angles, and he made faces that seemed both ridiculous and expressive. Zyra's eyes widened as her datapad struggled to keep up with the movements. "This is incredible," she murmured. "Your coordination, your flexibility, your expressiveness, it is remarkable." Elias laughed again. "We humans like to show off sometimes, makes life more interesting." Zyra noted the word carefully. Interesting, humans use display not for aggression but for engagement and social interaction. She paused. "This is efficient, surprising." Elias tilted his head, studying her reaction. "Surprising?" he asked. "We do like to surprise other species sometimes, especially when they underestimate us." Zyra's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Your species thrives in unexpected situations. You use observation, improvisation, and expression as tools. This is unusual and admirable." Elias smiled. "Thank you, that's very flattering coming from a scientist." Zyra's antennae twitched again. "Flattering is a social signal. It encourages positive response. Your species is complex." Elias laughed lightly. "We like to think so. But mostly we're just trying to get along and have a little fun along the way." He gestured toward the observation deck's open space. "Do you want to try? Mimic some of my gestures?" Zyra hesitated. She had never attempted mimicry in the field before, and humans could be unpredictable. Yet, something about Elias' calm, encouraging demeanor made her curious. She nodded slowly. Elias grinned and began again, this time slower, showing each gesture carefully. Zyra mirrored them as best she could, her movements stiff at first, then gradually smoother. Each twist, turn, and hand motion seemed to align with the human form, and she could feel herself understanding more about his species. Elias clapped his hands lightly. "See, you're already getting the hang of it." Zyra's datapad beeped softly, registering her own movements alongside his. She noted the subtle differences in physiology, balance, and muscle coordination. Humans were astonishing. They were playful, expressive, adaptive, and surprisingly precise. By the end of the demonstration, Zyra was smiling, her earlier fear completely gone. She had come expecting a potentially dangerous encounter, yet all she had found was brilliance in motion, humor, and communication. The bulge that had once caused her anxiety now seemed almost trivial, a small but telling detail of the human form. Elias noticed her expression and grinned. "See, nothing dangerous, just a human being." Zyra nodded slowly, recording a final note in her datapad. "Indeed, humans are remarkable, adaptable, expressive, efficient, and engaging." She paused, considering her next words. "And their anatomy is deceptively harmless yet capable of extraordinary motion." Elias laughed softly. "You make it sound like a superpower." "Perhaps it is," Zyra replied quietly. She glanced at him, a spark of admiration in her amber eyes. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also incredible, and she was beginning to understand why they fascinated so many species across the galaxy. As the observation deck hummed quietly around them, filled with alien chatter and distant engine vibrations, Zyra realized that this encounter was only the beginning. Humans had much to teach, much to reveal, and she was determined to understand it all, even if it began with something as simple as a harmless bulge in a suit. The observation deck was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of artificial lights that reflected off the polished floor. Zyra still felt a buzz of curiosity after the gestures and expressions Captain Elias had shown her. The human's movements were simple yet elegant, full of subtle meanings she had only begun to decode. She could feel her mind stretching to understand the combinations of motion, sound, and expression humans used to communicate. Elias leaned casually against a railing, his dark eyes still twinkling with amusement. "I can see you're fascinated," he said. "Don't worry, you're allowed to be. Most species would be completely lost trying to copy what I just did." Zyra's antennae twitched, a signal of focus in her species. She tilted her head slightly, analyzing him. "It is remarkable," she said. "Your coordination, your flexibility, the way you use motion to convey meaning. It is efficient and adaptable." Elias laughed lightly. "We humans like to think so, but it's not just physical. We use our bodies, our faces, our voices. Even small gestures carry information." He raised one hand slowly, fingers spreading, and moved it in an elegant wave. "See, this isn't just a wave. It can mean hello, respect, curiosity, or even a joke, depending on the expression." Zyra watched closely, trying to process every detail. She had studied many species, but none combined expression, gesture, and sound in such an intricate, deliberate way. She noticed the slight flex of his fingers, the tilt of his head, the curve of his lips. Each tiny movement added meaning. Even the previously suspicious bulge in his suit moved naturally, shifting with his muscles as he demonstrated. "You are still observing that," Elias said, pointing lightly to the area she had scanned so obsessively. "It's harmless." "Humans have quirks, that's one of ours." Zyra hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yes, I understand. It is a natural feature, not a weapon. I am relieved." Elias grinned, pleased with her progress. "Good, relief is a healthy response. It shows you've learned something new." He paused, then gestured toward the center of the deck. "Would you like to try something else? I can show you more human abilities, things that are even harder to detect with scanners." Zyra's eyes widened. "Abilities, please explain." Elias smiled. "Humans are very good at adapting to situations, not just physically but mentally. We can solve problems, improvise, and sometimes fool others in playful ways. It's part of how we communicate and survive." Zyra tilted her head. "Playful deception, is that normal?" Elias laughed. "Yes, in the right situations, not harmful, just clever. For example, if someone thinks they understand us but they don't, we can surprise them. It's part of social interaction." Zyra made a note in her datapad. "Humans capable of playful deception as social strategy. Fascinating. She had not expected such complexity." "Now watch this," Elias said. He moved into a different position, feet slightly apart, knees bent, arms loose. "Humans can use balance and movement to solve problems quickly. For example, if I had to reach a high shelf without a ladder." He demonstrated by extending his body in a precise, controlled stretch, barely losing his balance. "See, efficiency, balance, and precision." Zyra's sensors recorded every subtle movement. The coordination between muscles, the way his body shifted weight effortlessly, was astonishing. "Remarkable," she murmured. "Your species maximizes energy while maintaining control. Adaptation is precise." Elias chuckled at her formal tone. "I like that word, precise. Humans are precise, yes, but we're also messy. Creativity and precision often mix in funny ways." He lifted a small object from the floor, a tool that looked like a multi-purpose device, and juggled it lightly while balancing on one leg. "See what I mean?" Zyra blinked. That level of coordination, improvisation, and confidence was astounding. "Efficient and adaptable," she repeated to herself. Humans were not just physically flexible, they were inventive, clever, and playful at the same time. Elias noticed her amazement and grinned. "You're really impressed, aren't you?" "Yes," Zyra admitted. "I did not anticipate such ingenuity. Your species surprises me continuously." He laughed softly. "Good, I hope that's a compliment. We humans like to surprise other species. It keeps life interesting." Zyra nodded. "It is a compliment. Your species is remarkable, adaptable, expressive, and capable of unexpected solutions." Elias' eyes sparkled. "You've got it. Humans are more than our anatomy. We're creativity, humor, and problem-solving all in one package." Zyra considered this. Your anatomy and your behavior work together efficiently. Each action carries information. Even gestures, expressions, and sounds, they are all functional. Elias smiled. Exactly, it's all connected. We use everything we have, body, mind, voice, to survive, communicate, and sometimes just entertain. Zyra's antennae twitched with excitement. She had observed many species, but none combined so many layers of communication and adaptability. She realized she had underestimated humans, not because they were weak, but because they were subtle, clever, and multifaceted. "Would you like to try a challenge?" Elias asked suddenly. "I can test your ability to follow and interpret human gestures." "It's fun and it shows how we adapt." Zyra tilted her head. "Explain the challenge." Elias stepped forward, his movements smooth and deliberate. "I will perform a series of gestures. Each one conveys a different meaning. You must interpret them and respond appropriately." "It is harmless, but it tests your understanding of human behavior." Zyra nodded slowly. "I accept. Proceed." Elias began with simple gestures, a wave for greeting, a nod for agreement, a tilt of the head for curiosity. Zyra mirrored them carefully, noting how each subtle shift in movement or expression changed the meaning. Then he increased the difficulty. Complex sequences of gestures combined with facial expressions and small vocal sounds. Zyra focused intently, processing every cue. Her antennae twitched with concentration. This was unlike any previous observation. Humans layered multiple signals at once: motion, sound, expression, and each signal influenced the meaning of the others. Her datapad recorded everything, but she knew that raw data alone could not capture the elegance of it. By the end of the challenge, Zyra had successfully interpreted most gestures. Elias clapped his hands lightly. "Excellent, you're getting it. Not many aliens can follow that." "Most give up halfway through." Zyra's eyes glowed faintly with satisfaction. "It is difficult yet illuminating. Your communication is intricate but logical once patterns are recognized." Elias grinned. "Exactly. Humans are complicated, but if you take the time, we make sense." "Most species don't bother." Zyra made a note. "Humans capable of high-level adaptive communication combining motion, expression, and sound. Efficient and unpredictable. Admirable." Elias leaned back, stretching casually. "I think you're ready for the next demonstration." "This one shows how humans improvise in unexpected situations." Zyra's antennae twitched with anticipation. "Explain." He pointed to a small stack of crates nearby. "Imagine you need something on top, but there's no ladder. You could build something, balance carefully, or even use your body creatively to reach it. Humans do all three, sometimes at once. Watch." Elias carefully climbed onto one crate, balancing expertly as he reached for the top object. Then, seeing it slightly out of reach, he adjusted his position, leaned forward, stretched, and even shifted the crate slightly, all without losing balance or precision. Zyra watched in awe. Humans were not only adaptable in communication, but in movement, problem-solving, and coordination simultaneously. "This is remarkable," she murmured. "Efficiency, adaptability, problem-solving, and physical coordination combined. Your species excels in multi-layered tasks." Elias smiled. "Thanks, we humans like to solve problems in style. It keeps life interesting." Zyra's datapad beeped softly, recording every micro-movement, every flex of muscle, every subtle shift in balance. Humans were efficient in ways no other species she had studied could match. Their adaptability was astonishing, and their creativity extended to both mental and physical challenges. "You are fascinating," she said quietly. "Your species combines flexibility, intelligence, and social interaction seamlessly. It is unique." Elias laughed softly. "Glad you think so. Most people just see us as funny or clumsy." He tapped the harmless bulge in his suit again. "And yet even this little thing is part of the system. It moves with us, adjusts naturally, harmlessly. Little quirks like this make us human." Zyra's amber eyes glimmered. "Human, yes, your species is extraordinary. Each action, each gesture, each adaptation is functional yet expressive. It is a marvel." Elias chuckled. "You make it sound like a superpower." "Perhaps it is," Zyra said. She glanced at him, a new respect growing within her. Humans were more than she had ever imagined. Expressive, clever, resilient, and endlessly fascinating. As the observation deck hummed quietly with the distant sounds of engines and alien chatter, Zyra realized that her study of humans had only just begun. They were unpredictable, yes, but in ways that were clever, creative, and inspiring. and she knew that learning from them would be one of the most remarkable experiences of her career. The sun of the distant planet below the station reflected in streaks of gold and green across the observation deck. Zyra stood quietly, her amber eyes following Captain Elias as he moved with that familiar ease she had come to admire. She had spent hours studying him, watching his gestures, his expressions, the way his body communicated so much without words. Each movement was purposeful, efficient, yet playful, and she realized more and more that humans were unlike any species she had studied before. "Ready for the next demonstration?" Elias asked, noticing her attentive gaze. His smile was easy, comforting, almost like a signal that everything here was safe and approachable. Zyra tilted her head. "Yes, I am curious about the full range of your abilities," he nodded. "Good. This one shows how humans adapt to unexpected situations." "It's simple, but it's tricky to explain." He gestured to a low table nearby that had several small, unassembled objects scattered across it. "Imagine you have to organize these quickly, but there's a catch. You can only use your hands, and some pieces are tricky to reach." Zyra's sensors flared with interest. Efficiency, problem-solving, and coordination, all in one demonstration. She watched closely as Elias leaned over the table, picking up pieces with careful precision, his fingers moving quickly but deliberately. Every motion was fluid, his body balanced perfectly, even when stretching to reach the farthest pieces. "You are precise," she murmured to herself. "Yet adaptable, you adjust movements without losing stability. Remarkable." Elias looked up, smiling. "Thank you." "Most species don't handle multiple tasks at once like this. We humans practice it from a young age. It's part of how we survive and thrive." Zyra noted his words carefully. Humans, they combined physical skill, mental flexibility, and intuition naturally. No other species she had studied could do that with such elegance. Even her own people, with all their training and discipline, could not match the ease with which humans adapted. He stacked and arranged the objects efficiently, then added a twist. He intentionally shifted a piece so it threatened to topple the stack. Without hesitation, he adjusted, using another piece as support, balancing it perfectly. Zyra's eyes widened. Humans did not just adapt, they anticipated, improvised, and corrected mistakes seamlessly. "This is extraordinary," she whispered. "Your species combines foresight, improvisation, and coordination simultaneously, efficiency and flexibility unmatched." Elias chuckled lightly. "That's the idea. Sometimes life throws unexpected challenges and humans have to handle them quickly. We don't panic, we adapt. And if possible, we do it in style." Zyra's antennae twitched. She was fascinated not only by the physical dexterity, but also by the problem-solving aspect. Humans could think quickly, make decisions, and adjust actions in real time, all while maintaining balance, composure, and even humor. That level of coordination between mind and body was rare in the galaxy. "Your anatomy works with your mind in ways I did not expect," she said carefully. "The efficiency of motion, the precision, the adaptability, it is impressive." Elias smiled. "We like to think of it as teamwork between brain and body. Without coordination, nothing works well. That's why even something as simple as a gesture can carry meaning." He tapped the harmless bulge in his suit lightly, grinning. "See. Even small quirks adjust naturally as we move. Harmless, but functional in a way." Zyra felt a spark of amusement. That one detail which had caused her so much concern initially was indeed harmless and yet illustrative of the human body's adaptability. She had approached him with caution, expecting danger. Instead, she had discovered efficiency, creativity, and resilience. "Humans are capable of integrating anatomy, cognition, and social interaction seamlessly," she murmured. "It is a marvel." Elias laughed. "You make it sound like magic, but really it's just what humans do." Zyra tilted her head, curious. "Magic, no. Observation confirms logic, but your species is extraordinary in combining multiple capabilities at once. Physical skill, problem-solving, improvisation, and communication, all harmonized." Elias leaned back casually, clearly enjoying her analysis. "Exactly. Most people just notice humans running, laughing, or making faces, but there's more going on beneath the surface. We adapt, improvise, and communicate all at once. That's how we survive and thrive." Zyra's mind raced as she recorded everything. Humans were not just physically capable, they were efficient in combining intelligence, dexterity, and social interaction. Each movement had a purpose, yet it seemed effortless. The bulge that had initially alarmed her was a small part of a system designed for flexibility and adaptability. "You are remarkable," she said quietly. Even this detail, initially confusing, demonstrates your species' efficiency and balance. Harmless yet functional, ingenious. Elias grinned. "I'm glad you finally trust me. It takes time, but most species get it eventually." Zyra's amber eyes glimmered. She had indeed learned to trust him, not because she had to, but because observation confirmed his harmlessness. Humans were clever, playful, and resilient. Their unpredictability was not dangerous but creative and adaptive. Elias noticed her quiet admiration and leaned slightly closer, voice gentle. "You know, most people don't see humans like this. They just see our actions, not the reasoning behind them." Zyra's antennae twitched. "Observation reveals reasoning, coordination, and efficiency. Your species' actions are intentional and multi-layered. It is impressive." Elias smiled. "Thank you. Humans like to surprise other species, but always in a safe way. Curiosity, humor, and adaptation are part of who we are." Zyra paused, realizing the truth in his words. She had approached him expecting a potential threat. Instead, she had witnessed cleverness, adaptability, and playful intelligence. Her previous assumptions had been incomplete. Humans were remarkable not because of brute strength or technological advantage, but because of ingenuity, coordination, and creativity. "You have changed my understanding," she said softly. "I expected danger. Instead, I have found efficiency, adaptability, and ingenuity. Your species excels in ways few others do." Elias laughed, a sound that filled the quiet deck. "That's very flattering and accurate. Humans are, well, humans, surprising, clever, and adaptable." Zyra made a careful note in her datapad. "Humans capable of high-level adaptation in multiple domains simultaneously, physical, cognitive, and social. Quirks and unusual features, once alarming, often enhanced functionality. Impressive beyond prior expectations." Elias gestured toward the observation deck's open space. "Do you want to see one more thing? It's subtle, but it shows how humans use observation and intuition together." Zyra nodded. "Explain." He pointed to a small object partially hidden under a table. "I didn't place this here, and I'm not touching it. Watch how humans notice it." He stepped back and observed carefully. Then, without moving the object, he gestured subtly with his eyes and head, adjusting his posture. Within seconds, he bent slightly, extended a hand, and retrieved the object with minimal effort. Zyra's sensors recorded the sequence. Humans had noticed an object, assessed distance, calculated movement, and retrieved it efficiently, all in under 2 seconds. "Observation, anticipation, efficiency, integrated with physical action," she murmured. "Your species remarkable." Elias smiled, clearly enjoying her awe. "Exactly. It's all about attention, timing, and balance. Humans notice, assess, and act efficiently." Zyra's eyes glimmered. Her admiration for humans had grown exponentially in just a few hours. What she had initially thought of as a potentially dangerous encounter had turned into a study in ingenuity, adaptability, and intelligence. Every detail, every gesture, every subtle movement revealed a species capable of incredible coordination between mind and body. "You are extraordinary," she said softly. "I approached you with caution. I expected danger. Instead, I have observed precision, creativity, adaptability, and harmless ingenuity. Your species is impressive beyond prior expectations." Elias laughed lightly. "Thank you. Most species don't realize it. They underestimate humans." Zyra's antennae twitched again. "Indeed, misunderstanding arises from assumptions, not observation. I have learned from direct observation. Humans are exceptional." Elias tapped lightly on his suit. "Even this little quirk?" "Yes," Zyra said, smiling faintly. "Harmless yet illustrative, functional, adaptive, and integrated with your anatomy. Ingenious." For the first time, Zyra felt a deep sense of respect, not fear, not caution, but admiration. Humans were not just physically capable. They were creative, clever, and endlessly adaptive. Their anatomy, combined with intelligence and playful communication, allowed them to navigate unexpected challenges efficiently and elegantly. As the planet's light shifted across the observation deck, casting long golden patterns, Zyra realized the truth. Humans were extraordinary, and she had only just begun to understand them.